Hi, I'm Dave Gahan and you're watching Viva.com.
You are a fan of blues and gospel music, and of course there are influences on the album. And I thought, with you living for almost or over 25 years in the States, do you think that musical genres belong to specific places?
There's certain countries that I've been to where the music that I hear there makes perfect sense. So I do think that certain types of music are really in certain places for a reason, but I don't think that you have to. You can play that music anywhere. I mean, and you can take influences from wherever you do. The reason why I really like gospel music as well is the purity of it, and that it is based in feeling. It's based in emotion and feeling. And once again, you're not necessarily responding to the lyrical content. You're responding to. I respond to how that makes me feel. If I feel joy, I feel exhilarated. I feel like I want to be part of it.
Cool. Gospel singer Mahalia Jackson once said, "Anybody singing the blues is in a deep pit yelling for help." So, how deep was your pit?
My pit can go pretty deep, but over the years I've realised that it's a choice. Music has always helped me to rise out of whatever kind of mood it is I may be in, and it can change my mood immediately. There's in one song on this album called "One Thing" where I use the line, "There's always life on Mars out there for me," and that's of course I'm referring to the David Bowie song, because the song is, it's kind of like a reflection on what I see going on around me in the world, and that can be sometimes incredibly disheartening and disappointing. And as a human being, you kind of have this feeling of like we should be doing something. We should be, by now, shouldn't we be more together? It's like, at the same time, it has a sense of hope and optimism to it, and I throw that line in there in a kind of throwaway way, because that song always can lift me. That song can always transform however I'm feeling. It's Bowie's the one artist, I would say, for many decades that has always surprised me and also lifted me, and also I have complete identification with his voice and his melodies.
So I think I figured that it must have been development in your songwriting with this album, because the reach is so spiritual in songwriting, and to explain the world in such simplistic sentences. Was that something that you see for yourself with this album?
To me, it doesn't make a song more interesting just because, it has kind of a clever lyrical content. It's about how each word makes you feel. And to me, words are very visual, and I respond visually to what I hear musically. And sometimes immediately a word will come into my head, or a phrase, if I'm lucky. And then I have to figure it out. I have to sort of then allow the song to take over. And then for me, what happens with the songwriting is I just have to kind of get out of the way.
I felt the atmosphere in One Thing, that is actually a song about love, for me was very oppressive when I listened to it the first time. When you say they don't know what they're fighting for in the song, what are you fighting for?
I really don't know. I think sometimes it's human nature. We make things more difficult than they really are out of a sense of fear of not really getting what we think we want to get, what we deserve or something. And so, you act defensively. The phrase about love really is also something that I yearn to feel. I definitely have lots of love around me, And I see that also when I perform as well, and I have it in my personal life as well, but it's just hard for me to actually allow it.
But back to Lately, that's such an intimate song, and the entire album is so personal. You had the choice to have this choir to back you up, because at some point I felt like you stand like totally naked in front of me as a singer. Was it important?
I don't really want to have that image,
no.
but...
No, was it important for you to have those elements when it comes to being very personal?
Yeah, that song is actually one of my favorites on the album, and you know, I'm just really being honest. It's really just off the cuff. It's just kind of, you know, it's a bit throwaway, and it's why the song is so slow too as well, and very precise in its feel. What I try and do quite often with lyrics and melody is, you know, if the lyric is taking me in one direction, I will sing the melody in the opposite direction. When you're in a band, you know, when it's really a band and there's a bunch of people that are all working together in the studio, producers, programmers, you know, engineer, you know, like myself and Martin, it's, you know, you have to collaborate, and you have to sometimes compromise your own ideas about things, and in the end that becomes something that is a joint venture. But with this, I really don't have to edit anything I'm saying or doing, which is what I really like.
When I think about songs like Lately, Tempted, One Thing or Shine, I visualize you in a desert. How do you visualize this album?
All the songs and all the music I, you know, work on with Soulsavers, it has a very sort of open, wide, big Americana kind of feel about it. And you know, there's a lot of America. There's, you know, you've got New York and LA, but there's this huge expanse of country in between those two cities, where you can drive for hours and hours and hours and see nothing but desert or mountains, or, you know. So visually, that appeals to me, you know, somehow. And it definitely creeps into the every sort of aspect of the songs. But at the same time, sometimes the songs are very intimate and descriptive, but they're, you know, it's a character in there. There's definitely a character in there, and he begins here and he ends here, but he's on a journey, and just, you know, as we are in life.